And today's conference will be led by Matthew Carrison. I think everybody knows him. It's a part of Infra team. As you know, Women in Tech community is open not only for women, so for men also. And we thank you all our sponsors and all men who support us. So Marcela, Rafik, Matthew, Guillaume, Ludovic, and a lot of others. Some weeks ago, Matthew came to us with his topic. It's about mental health. And so when he told us his story, we were a kind of emotional, very emotional, and impressed, admired some of this. And some of us needed some tissues, so today I brought my tissues also. If anybody needs, let us know. Matthew's story will be very personal. So, you know, life is not only fairy tale, not only unicorns, not only rainbows. In rainbows, sometimes there are some dark colors, and it's also okay. And maybe it's good to talk about it also, because we are not used to speak up. Neither man nor woman. And the strongest side of Matthew today is to break this stereotype and to speak up. It's the society shows only positive sides, so today we will speak about both of them. How to be stronger through some troubles in life. And you know, not only men and women, we do not really talk about some troubles in life, and sometimes we talk only to friends and family, or even to ourselves. So today, let's consider all of us as Matthew's friends and family, and be very respectful and extremely caring to create this safe environment for all of us. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to thank you all for coming. As you will notice, I am not a woman, but I am here at Women in Tech, and I just wanted to say that I'm here because these women have inspired me to speak up today. What I'm going to talk about is deeply personal. It may shock some of you. It may be sad for some of you. It may make you laugh, but I hope really that it's interesting and that it gives you hope. So I'm going to start with a question and a story. So the question is, bring the laptop. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So question: have any of you, or does anyone you know, have suffered from any of these mental health issues? Okay, congratulations. I absolutely admire you for putting your hands up. That's not an easy thing to do, to admit that you have maybe suffered from some of these mental health issues. So now, a story. And it's a story about superheroes, real ones. When I was a kid, I had a best friend. His name was Russell. We did everything together, from mountain biking to shooting air rifles to drinking in our later years. We even holidayed together, often with my parents. And it was on one such occasion when we were on holiday in the Isle of Wight, which is a tiny island off the south of England. Look it up, it's very nice. We've been riding our bikes and we cycled up to the top of a hill. It was a beautiful view and we decided to have a snack. My friend Russell, that boy on the hill, suddenly got emotional. He started crying. That's not what boys do. And so I asked him what was wrong. And he told me he had a secret. He told me that he had bulimia. Now, as a 15-year-old boy, I had no idea what bulimia was. I wondered whether I'd need to go to the pharmacist or get some cream for it. But it turns out that bulimia is a mental health issue. And it's a problem with eating. It's an eating disorder. So people binge eat and then they make themselves sick. Russell had been doing this 3 times a day, every day so far on our holiday, and he couldn't stop. For the next few months, I did what I could to try and help him. I don't know if it helped or not. But Russell had a dream. His dream was to be an officer in the British Parachute Regiment. And he knew that to fulfill that dream, he had to overcome his bulimia. And one day, everything changed. One day, he was out running with a rucksack full of bricks, training to become a senior person in the army. And he ran past a group of very disabled children with their carers. And one of those children looked up at him and said one word. That word was Superman. That one word changed everything for Russell. The pictures went up in every toilet in his house with Superman written on it. It helped him to focalize and stop on the physical part of his illness. That boy on the hill found a way to conquer his issue. I too became that boy on the hill 25 years later, when I sat down, told my wife that I had problems with addiction. For 15 years, I had had problems with drugs and alcohol. So what is addiction? Well, this is my phrase for it. I say it's the repetition of an act with little or no regard for the consequences. We carry on, we do what we know is bad for us, but this evil clown in our mind tells us, reassures us that it's the right thing to do, and we can't stop, or we struggle to stop. But the key thing is, it's a mental health illness. Let's have a look at a fact. That's pretty shocking, right? How many are we here today? 40 people? How many people are we in L'Oreal? 85,000? You cannot tell me there is no one out there that's not going through or has not been through what I have. The thing about addiction is it's the elephant in the room. It's a taboo subject. We don't talk about it. Everybody knows it's there, but nobody looks at it. So why am I here today? Why am I telling you all of this? Well, I want to do 4 things. I want to tell you a little bit about my story. I want to try and have you leave with different views on addiction. I want to talk about the narrative that we use, the language, and why I believe it needs to change. And finally, I want to help if I can. So, the addict. Here she is, here he is. Of course, the addict. The down and out person, the person who is at the end of their life. They have no home, they have no money, they have nothing. I'm telling you, that is not correct. What about this guy? 3 weeks ago, he stood on Hollywood's biggest stage and won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. 30 years ago, he was in an LA jail for narcotics and alcohol issues. We have Demi Lovato, a really brave American singer who came out and said, you know what, it's okay to have issues. And I hugely respect her. We even have Spider-Man. He came out 3 years ago after a Christmas of heavy drinking and said that he didn't want to live like that anymore. A young guy, just 27 years of age, making a change. Samuel L. Jackson, he actually stopped drinking before his career took off, and he says many times that if he hadn't have done that, he doesn't believe his career would have gone anywhere. And finally, most boys when they grow up dream of becoming astronauts. Well, even astronauts have problems. Buzz Aldrin, one of the first men on the moon, spoke of magnificent desolation. He'd gone to the moon, there was nothing left to do, and he sought solace in alcohol. But the reality is it's these people, it's me, it's you. You cannot tell, but there are people who are suffering on the inside, and we need to be aware of those people. So, about me. Who here has heard of Photoshop? The next photo is not photoshopped. I was enormous. Yes, this is me as a baby. I do not know how my parents picked me up, but they did. I think I loved Nutella. The reality is I also had meningitis when I was a baby. I was not supposed to live. For 10 days, the doctors could not tell my parents whether I would live or die. I did survive, and I think I made up for it by eating. But there you go. So I grew up and had a very happy childhood. Notice this is the 1980s. So we have rusty pool steps and dirty water, and I am still alive. Then I went to school. I was fortunate and had a privileged upbringing. I went to a private school in the UK. I went to a boarding school. I have good memories, but it was pretty brutal being sent away from your parents when you're 11 years old. I saw them once a month and then in holidays. Can anybody spot me? I'll narrow it down. I'll narrow it down even more. That's me there. So something interesting I found out recently was this. A friend of mine got in touch, and he also has had real problems with drugs and alcohol. I then grew up a bit more, went to secondary school. I was basically Harry Potter without the wand. I then got a bit rebellious, then got a bit more rebellious. That was the 90s, the hairstyle was cool in the 90s, trust me. And then I went to university, and it carried on. And finally, here's me with my 2 children. This was probably at the height of my addiction. Can you tell? So how did I get there? Well, what started out as fun turned into a habit and then an addiction. I tell you now, no one on earth sets out to become an addict. Nobody has that first glass of wine and says, I want a bottle of that a night, please. It just happens, and it's a slow burner. It creeps up on you. Let's talk about alcohol just for a minute, because the strange thing about alcohol is it's the only drug you have to apologize for not taking. Trust me, it now happens to me all the time. Not long ago, I went for lunch, and I sat down with someone, and they said to me, right, glass of wine? I was like, no, sorry, no thanks. And he said, oh, that's right, you're English, you want a beer? I was like, no, honestly, sorry, it's fine. He's like, God, this is difficult. All right, champagne. But it just goes to show that, it is this one thing that is so ingrained in our society. And it's very strange, I think, now I look back on it, because it is a drug that is pushed on us. We use it to celebrate. We use it to commiserate. We use it to come of age. When we grow up, you want to have fun as an adult, you have to have alcohol. One thing I do want to tell you, which is quite interesting, is it is just ethanol. That is what the key ingredient of alcohol is. So whether you drink Romanée Conti or the highest Bordeaux or the cheapest cider, it is exactly the same. But addicted I became, and drank I did. So what happened? Well, three things. Three things happened to me, which is one of the reasons why I'm here today. The first thing was my brother quit drinking. He quit drinking because he ran a business, and he felt that his weekend drinking, he didn't have the same issues as me, but his weekend drinking was counterproductive. I really like this expression, counterproductive, because it's so simple, right? You want to be productive, or remove the counter bit. So that's what he did. He removed drinking from his life, and it removed the barriers. He wanted to sell his business, and he achieved that 2 years ago. He knows this now, but in many ways, my brother saved my life. The second thing was I started to recognize that I had a problem. I started to really think about what was going on. I started looking, is a bottle of wine a day too much? I started looking at YouTube videos, and you would not believe the world of support that is out there. I then realized that, yes, I was in that problem territory, and I needed to do something about it. I then had my rock bottom moment. That moment where, for me, like Russell, everything changed. This is probably the hardest bit of my presentation today, but I'm going to tell you what happened. I went out on a Thursday night, and I went out with a friend to watch a game of football. And we drank a lot. And the next day, I got up, not feeling great, and I'd arranged to have lunch with some friends. So after lunch I went, and I drank at lunchtime. For some strange reason, and this is the mental health part that kicks in, I had also arranged to meet friends and indeed some colleagues that evening at 6 o'clock in a bar. I went to get some provisions for the afternoon, and I ended up buying some vodka. I drank some of that vodka, and I passed out in my home. I awoke to the phone ringing, one of my friends saying, "We're in the bar, where are you?" At that point, I knew I was in trouble. I knew it wasn't good. I managed to get up and go to the bar, and I sat there. I was deeply ashamed. How was it that I was intoxicated at 6 o'clock in the evening when everybody else was sober? I was deeply aware of it. Then I knocked beer over myself, and then I kind of woke up, and I knew I had to stop. I started drinking Coca-Cola and tried to get my head together. Then something happened that changed everything. My phone rang again. It was my wife. She asked me where I was. When I said where I was, she knew. And then she said the one thing that stopped it all. She said, "Where are the children?" I'd forgotten to get my children. I have never felt so ashamed in my entire life. I did get them, luckily. But that was it. That was the moment I knew everything had to stop. So my posters went up. They were a plan of the next 4 weeks. Morning, day, evening, what would I be doing? Anything to break this habit, because the ultimate thing is that it is a lot to do with boredom. It became what I did. My father once said to me, you need to get a hobby. And in my back of my mind, I was thinking my hobby is drinking. That's what I like to do. So I knew that I had to break that. I knew I had to find other things. I found solace in the cinema. I used to go to the cinema almost every night because it would be something different. It would be doing things. You have to fill your time. So why am I not alone in this whole thing? Why do I believe it's worth speaking about? The reality is, we don't talk, especially men. Men don't talk. We keep it in our heads. Even from a small child, we don't want to say the truth. We don't want to talk about what's happening to us. I once spent 2 hours on a beach looking for my son's glasses. I wasn't alone. There were 10 of us on the beach that day. When we arrived, he was desperate to get into the sea with his cousin. I said, take off your glasses. He said yes. Off he went, down the beach, straight into the water. We had a lovely day. At the end of the day, when they came out the water, I was like, right, pack up your stuff, let's go. Right, glasses. Couldn't find his glasses. I said, well, what did you do with them? So I took them off. I put them on the towel, I promise. So we looked under towels, we looked under other people's towels, we looked in bins, we searched absolutely everywhere. We did not find the glasses lost, end of story. Also, I thought, 2 days later, I overheard my son and his cousin talking, and the word glasses popped up. So I stepped in, ready to do some proper parenting. They eventually told me the truth. What had happened was, he hadn't taken his glasses off. He'd gone straight into the sea. A wave had smacked him in the face. His glasses had gone. He searched for them like a swan with his hands. Glasses gone. So the point of the story is, he kept this in his head. He didn't come out with it. He didn't tell the truth. Some people say, why don't you just stop? And that's the difficult thing. And this is where I'm going with this, is if any of you or anyone you know are having issues, you really need to seek the help. You need to seek the support that you can get. I would put it to a lot of people, and I have asked my friends this. If I said to you, okay, right now, today, for the next month, you cannot have a drink. I don't care if it's your birthday. I don't care if it's the dog's birthday. No alcohol. Could you, or would you want to? And I think it's a question that is interesting. So stopping isn't that easy. Talking about the narrative, one of the hardest things, in my opinion, is the language. When you smoke, you're a smoker. When you smoke a lot, you're still a smoker. You're not a cigarette-aholic or a cigarette addict. Why? Why is it with alcohol and drugs we use these very strong words, such as alcoholic, such as addict? I truly believe, having been through what I've been through, that these words actually can put off people seeking help. They don't want to be tarnished with that brush. And I think that is a real shame. I think we need to use language such as substance use disorder. I think we need to say problem drinking and not go down the road of these strong words which can be so damning. As I mentioned at the beginning, it is a mental health issue. It's what goes on in your mind, and it's when you can conquer that, it's when you can convince your mind that you are done, that you can change things. Rob Lowe, the American actor, I think has a great saying, a great comment, and he said, you cannot quit for your kids, your wife, your job, none of that. You can only quit when you decide you're done, and I completely agree. Well, I mentioned before that mental illness is common. Here are some results from the US. I think they're pretty astonishing. Sadly, there are people in this room who will also have problems. I hope you find a way to address them. So back to the story about superheroes. My friend Russell, he became a major in the parachute regiment. He led a platoon of 200 soldiers on a deadly tour in Afghanistan for 6 months. He was awarded the British Military Cross for gallantry and leadership under fire. That second boy on the hill is stood in front of you today, full of pride, hope, and empowerment, and thanks. I believe that I want to help others. I can't believe I'm the only person in this situation. So one thing I did in COVID was I wrote a book. The book is called Man Gets Sober. This is not a sales pitch, but if you are interested, type it in Google, you'll find it easily. I hope there's information in there that can be interesting and useful. So where am I now? Not geographically, I am in Levallois. Where am I now? I am living my best life. I am the person that I always wanted to be, not the person I thought people wanted me to be. I was a shy, timid, introverted child. I think that may be one of the reasons why alcohol appealed to me so much, and drugs. But you know what? I'm happy being shy, timid, and introverted. That's how I am. Today is a big thing for me, trust me. I have achieved goals that I never thought I could achieve. I have bought time back. I have been fortunate to become part of this wonderful team here at L'Oreal, part of this amazing infrastructure team. And also, I've been allowed to come here with Women in Tech and tell you my story today. I want to leave with 2 messages. One is this: it's okay not to be okay. Really, it really is. There's plenty of help out there. Find your way. I found mine, and I have not regretted 1 minute of it. The second message I want to share is because we are here with Women in Tech, and I am not a woman, and 50% of the population are men. So I want to do my bit for men. And the reality is that it can be tough for us too. So just remember one thing. So thank you very much for listening to me today. I hugely appreciate it. And if you have any questions, you can ask me anything. And I mean anything. Thank you very much. You can ask me offline as well if you prefer. Cool. No, seriously, any questions?
Do we have some questions online, maybe?
No, not.
No? No worries.
Was it easy for you when you started quitting alcohol?
That's a great question, Vivek. Yeah, so was it easy for me? I think one thing I forgot to say actually during my presentation was that when I had my rock bottom moment, whilst it may have seemed terrible, and it was, the feeling I had immediately after that was one of relief, because I knew now that this had to stop. So the actual physical part of stopping was not that difficult. The hard bit is when the honeymoon period ends, because it becomes the new you, the normal you. And it is just a fact, you know. I have nothing against alcohol. My wife will enjoy a glass of wine, you know, and I have nothing against it. Just for me, it didn't work. But it is a strange one, because for the rest of my life, I will be offered and presented with the drug that did me severe damage. But Yeah, I found a way. I found my way, and my way was filling my time. It was YouTube videos. It was influencers. It was looking up to famous people. Do you know what? I actually feel quite cool because I now have something in common with Brad Pitt. You know, we don't drink, so no. It was easier than I thought physically, but yeah, continuing is. You know, there are times when you have that little moment of doubt. You know, oh, that would be nice if I get. And you're like, no, you can't. So thank you. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah.
Yes.
We talk more and more about mental illness.
Yes.
Do you think it's just linked to the society, COVID, etc., or it's just because before we didn't talk about?
That's a really, really good question. I think COVID has helped to push up awareness of mental illness and mental health. I think the reality is that nobody likes to admit they've got a problem. You know, I didn't want to tell anybody that I was having issues. You know, you don't want that sort of self infliction of pain, and I think that now slowly with more people coming out and saying, you know what, I've got issues with this, I'm really struggling with this, I think that's helping hugely. And I think, you know, people who are famous are doing a good job of it. One person actually that really touched me, who died recently, was Matthew Perry. I made a list when I wrote my book. I wanted to interview famous people, and he was on the list, and I feel sad I will not get to do that ever. Not that I would necessarily have done, but it was a dream. So yeah, I think we are talking more about it. I think we do need to talk more about it. I think there's no shame. The shame is if someone stays that way and never seeks to help to get better, because you can get better. And sorry, I'm going on a bit now, but there's a word that I don't particularly relate to, which is a term we use often in addiction, is recovery. Recovery to me suggests you will never recover. Me, I feel I am recovered. I am done with it. It's not something why would I want to go back to that hell when I have what I have now? Thank you for your question.
So I don't know if you hear me. I'm connected, Tanya, from.
Yeah.
I couldn't be with you. I wanted to be with you this morning, but unfortunately I'm only connected. But just wanted to share some reactions, because I don't know if you see them in the chat.
I don't.
We have one Luis who says, "Wow, Matt, really inspiring. Thanks a lot for sharing." We also have Antoine William saying, "Thank you so much, Matthew, to have shared your story." So I think we have lots of people that are really inspired by your story. We have Morad in Benelux saying, "Wow." So lots of very touching also messages for you, Matt, and I really wanted to thank, and I think we are all very grateful that you shared your story, because it's not an easy stuff to do. So we had some conversation about that earlier.
We did.
And yeah, knowing that each of us can have some moment of weakness in our lives. We know that COVID has maybe I recognize some voice from Hopeless Soul saying that COVID didn't maybe help, and I can also testify that during COVID we had like some signals from our employees that were not feeling so good, and now that you read in media that you have lots of people that are still suffering after COVID, because they have been isolated, because they have experienced some moments of solitude, etc. So really great inspiring testimony, Matt. Again, lots of thanks. I don't want to be longer, but yeah.
Thank you, Tanya. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for all the comments. That means honestly so much to me. Thank you. Do you have a question?
I have a question for you.
And
Yes.
he's very proud of you, man. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
So yeah, of course we are very proud of you. Congratulations. Just one question for you. So you wrote a book. You're very present. I mean, you now have a presence on YouTube, doing some videos.
Yes.
I'm sorry to disclose that.
No, no,
I'm
it's
doing
all right, yeah.
those videos.
I do them with my brother, so yeah.
It's
And
quite
myself.
cool. The Who's Brothers, it's really nice. So it's very
Thank you.
cool. I actually sometimes I listen to them while I'm driving. I listen to you.
Oh my God.
There is some interesting content there, and what? Okay, sorry. So there is some interesting content out there, and you finished your slides saying boys get sad too and so on. Considering, of course, that we are here at Women in Tech,
Yeah.
these things they touch everyone, men and women.
Yes.
Addiction, problems, drugs. There are many addictions to many things.
Completely agree. Yeah.
And because you're out there in your channel that you have now interaction, you receive some comments, and I heard also in some of your interaction with your brother talking also about women.
Yes.
So what is, from your point of view, the actual position and what have you seen from the women that eventually interacted with you guys, if they ever did?
Yeah.
What is the position of the woman in regards to the addiction, and what have you noticed the difference in the approach and in the perception? Because men, okay, even now, when you show those stars, etc., it's cool when they drink and it's cool when they come out and when they stop. Okay, but it's not the same thing for women.
No.
So what is your reflection or what are your reactions to that?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question, a really interesting topic. Yeah, so I think that it is an issue which affects a lot of women. I think I have to be careful with how I say this because it's not meant to sound stereotypical or not, but life is hard for women. I mean, I look at my wife and raising our two kids. There's lots of stress in life, and she works full time, and I can understand how women get into alcohol as maybe a comfort and a way out. I think what is great is, and this kind of inspired me to write a book. There are a lot of really good books written by women, for men and women, about alcohol. And I'm from the UK, and the UK has a reputation, sadly, it's a true one, for drinking and making drinking quite normalized. And there's jokes like, oh, it's wine o'clock, or mummy's little helper with a massive glass of wine and things like that. And I think we take that as a joke, but there are people who are genuinely, women who are genuinely affected by addiction issues, and we need to do more to speak up about that. And I think it's really, really hard. I think it's just hard for everyone. I don't think it, whilst we have two genders, I think it's cross-gender. I think no one wants to come out with that admittance that we have a problem. So yes, I don't know if that's answered your question, but I think it's the women that I've come across on two sides actually, because I've been contacted by women who are terribly worried about their husbands' issues. That's very difficult to deal with, and women who are acknowledging that they're drinking too much. And I think in both ways you just have to find a way to replace that time. Drinking is time consuming. I actually think about it, I was like, my God, how did I do anything? And I think that's the thing, you've got to focus on okay, get rid of the boredom, replace the time, do something, find something that you can grapple onto and become your new sort of hobby, the new you. For me, it's become sport. It's become writing a book. It's become, you know, doing things with my kids. I'm now 100% available. You know, if my kid needed me to drive them somewhere at 2 o'clock in the morning, it would never be a problem now. You know what I mean? Whereas, you know, before I look back in like shock and horror, and I look back like holidays, you know, there would be times when we would go on holiday as like, you know, friends, and we'd be giving iPads to the kids because we'd be wanting to do a barbecue and have drinks and stuff like that. And I look back on that now and I think, you know, that was pretty bad. So it gives you so much back, and I think man or woman, the benefits are there for both. Thank you.
Just a question.
Yes.
About your wife.
Yes.
I think this woman, she went with you through the quite tough periods of your life.
She did.
Was she always supportive? Did you have? I can imagine that you had some quite hard moments, but she always believed in you. She always had enough power to tell you, yes, we will go through this together. You will quit drinking and etc. Or
That's a really great
How was
question.
it?
Yeah. Look, I have to be honest, because this is one of the things you kind of need to do here. I tried to stop drinking one time before because it was kind of forced upon me. She kind of said to me, you need to sort this out. And I kind of agreed, so I was like, okay, I'm going to stop. So I did stop for a period of time. But in my mind, I was thinking, if I can prove that I can stop for, say, 2 months, then maybe I can drink again and I can sort of say that, you know, well, I've proved that I can stop and that. But in my mind, I didn't want to. It was an effort. It was under pressure. So, to answer your question, there were difficult times where, you know, she clearly wasn't happy. But what I also want to say is, I hid it a lot. You know, just want to make this clear, I guess, is I wasn't the sort of person who was getting up and pouring pastis on my cornflakes. I only drank at night. I really pretty much only drank wine. But for me, it was too much. It was impacting my life. And then towards the very end, the story I told you, that is a true story. Things just got out of hand, really, in the last sort of 6 months. I guess I lost my way. But she did the right thing, my wife, which was, you know, she didn't get angry or shout and scream. She said to me, you know, look at everything you've got. Look at, you know, that person you were. What, you know, we can do so much, and that was the kind of the right thing to do. I think if someone is having problems, like if you tell someone to stop doing something, or, you know, being brutally honest. I remember sometimes, you know, I would drink a bottle of wine and I'd maybe want another glass, and she would say no. That would rile me. It would enrage me. The way to deal with it, I think, is really just to talk and remind people that, you know, there is a better life, and it's there, and like I say, when I had that moment, that rock bottom moment, she didn't really need to say anything, and even she knew in my eyes. She was like, I know, now you're done. And so yeah, there were difficult times, but she, you know, thank God, saw the belief in me, and now, you know, she's well, I think she's proud of me, so that's really cool.
thank you.
Thank you.
I can ask.
Elena.
Yeah, just a question. when you took your decision,
Yes.
how do you manage to deal with people who are used to know you as old Matthew who's drinking, and what do you answer to the people who are still offering?
Yeah, that's a really really good question. So I suppose one of the advantages was so I stopped 6 years ago, so I was already just about in France, and so my UK friends, I didn't really need to communicate with them, so that was kind of cool. So I kept it very close at the beginning. I just told obviously my wife and like my parents and my brother. Yeah, it's kind of what's really interesting is you get some people who mock you to start with. You know, they're like, "Oh, come on, you know, you didn't have a problem. Let's have a drink," you know. But more often than not, you get intrigue. So people are like, wow, how did you do it? You know, what's life like? You know, is it not boring and all that? And that's also why I feel like, you know, I mentioned the word superhero. You kind of feel like you have almost a superpower. You do something that 80% of the population, you know, you're not doing something that 80% of the population do almost, you know. So yeah, I think with friends, you find out who your real friends are. That's for sure. Your real friends are the ones who their first reaction is, you know, I'm really proud of you, well done, you know, and they never, you know, would even mention or offer or bring in the idea of alcohol again. And you kind of realize that, you know, you sometimes live in a world where you've got these people in your life and they're not really interested in you, they're just acquaintances, and you know, those people go away, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, you know, personally. So yeah, you find out who your real friends are, that's for sure. Yes.
Speaking about your friends, and this asking a question I really want to thank you for what you just shared. It's very tough to ask a question after that.
Thank you.
Speaking about friends, what kind of valuable support you get from them? Because maybe in this room we have people around us that have this kind of problem, and it's always complicated to provide the right support to those people. Sometimes we prefer to say nothing, sometimes we are pushing them, and it's not always. So what kind of valuable support you get from your real friends that really helps you on your path?
Yeah. So it can be anything, just simple things, really. You know, messages at the beginning. My best friend from the UK has now also quit drinking. He never really drank that much, but he kind of saw the benefits and everything that it had on me. Yeah, I think, like I say, just those words of encouragement, just, you know, tell people it's the best decision they're making in their life. Tell people that, you know, you admire them, that you're proud of them. Suggest doing things that don't involve alcohol. I mean, I still mix with friends, I still go out, I still have people come for dinner, I love buying them nice wine, you know, so nothing. And one of my closest friends in France actually said to me, he was like, my God, it's really weird, nothing's changed. So I was like, well, no, because I can still go out, I don't, you know, there's nothing like stopping me doing any of these things. So I think, yeah, just provide words of encouragement. I think if anybody you know is having issues or you know, has problems, there is a world of information out there. I think once it's like everything, you suddenly realize that you're not alone. You're like, oh my God, that person's exactly like me. You know, you think you're the only person going through it, and you're not, you know. So yeah, that kind of community spirit, but yeah, encouragement is super helpful, and do things, you know. If you hear someone's, you know, made that decision, you know, say, hey, let's go out for the day. Let's go, I don't know, go go to the park, let's do things, you know, that's the best way to just carry on, I think. Cool. I hope that helped. Anything else? Thank you so much, honestly.